sure.
For sure. And, I mean, also both sides appear to be trying to win. Because I do see some, I do see some kind of possibilities where, you know, those very far advanced pawns get traded off the board. But then that would probably result in a draw, especially if the queens are swapped off. And here you go. The rook attacks the queen, and now the pawns are traded.
Yep. So those were the two most dangerous pawns in the position. And I think Duda, you see it on his face, he's not too enthusiastic about that last decision, but he simply had to go for it. There was too much risk. White's pawn was only 2 squares away from promoting, and his own pawn was blocked. So he needed to initiate that trade. And yeah, it's always funny when you see a position that should be a draw, but then both players still insisting that they both want to win, taking risks. And I still think there's a lot of life left, despite the fact that those pawns have disappeared. And okay, Duda now with the time advantage, will that count? Black's king still maybe slightly more open than its counterpart, but no way to get at it anytime soon. Will Wesley so trade the queens? If we trade the queens, maybe then we might see a draw. So, for example, if White's queen comes up to the top of the board, checks the black king on the 8th rank, forcing a queen trade, I think that will be the bailout approach from Wesley. So, okay, no, he wants to win. So he shifts his queen up 2 squares. Look how that queen is going to maybe move across to the right. That's where the black king is vulnerable on an open line. So, okay, trying to get through to that black king. Duda not looking happy, shaking his head slightly.
Yeah. Is this a good approach from Wesley, so? Because it does entail a lot of risk.
Yeah, I don't know if there's that much risk, though. I think he can trade queens later if he needs to, if he really, really needs to. So I think he's just playing because he can, not necessarily because he thinks he's winning or better. And what do you think? Should Black push some pawns, solidify, or maybe stop any checks around the black king?
Yeah, I agree.
Should Black centralise his queen?
Pushing some pawns, primarily the double pawn, I would push that one forward. Just kind of have a beautiful structure. And I also quite like your idea of swapping off queens because, like you say, Black's king is a little bit airy. And, OK, Duda goes for this plan.
So now Duda plans to meet a check from the white queen from the front with a block. Black's queen, OK, White's queen does actually give check, and Black, I think, will block this. Oh, no, maybe he shouldn't. If he blocks it with his own queen, then we might see a queen trade. That should be fine as well. That should just lead to a draw, but Duda has some calculation to do. He can also just shift his king to one side. OK, which one will he go for? Maybe the queen trade would see Black on the defensive in a difficult endgame, so maybe the safest is actually to move the king. What do you think, Ivanka?
That's ironic, isn't it? The safest is to go with the king somewhere. But where would you go with the king? Towards the centre. Towards the centre. You know, we've seen that. We've seen that move so many times, actually, in this particular tour final, that the safest thing for the king has been to run to the middle of the board. OK, so which way will Jan-Krzysztof Duda drag his mouse? He does offer the trade of queens, and he thinks that if the queens come off, he will easily hold a rook endgame. Yeah, and the reason I was a little bit worried about this was because if queen takes queen and after the pawn takes queen, then the rook will actually slide up to the 5th row and threaten those 2 pawns in the left and also the right.
Yeah, but White also has some severely weak pawns, so that would just lead to a completely balanced rook endgame. Instead, Wesley So tries to keep the queens on, and maybe some sneaky threats of the white queen actually going up this diagonal the whole way into the top left-hand corner and teaming up with her rook on the 8th rank, getting to the black king from behind. That would be really sneaky. It's very rare that you get into your opponent's camp and infiltrate and checkmate them from behind. Normally, your opponent has full control over their 8th rank, and there we see Duda's mouse. What is he going to do? He looks like he's moving it slightly to the right. No, he's moving something forward. Is he going to give a check with the black rook? Looks like he might go for it. It looks like he's about to move the black rook. Nope, he's moved his... OK, he does go up with the black rook. Not the whole way up the board. He did just stop on this 4th rank.
Your mouse analysis skills is very impressive, David.
Yeah, I'm a touchpad guy myself normally, but you have to read these things. Yeah, a lot of experience playing online chess.
Yes, and OK, so your idea is still in play, but I think Duda's plan is simply just to relocate the queen to the center, perhaps after giving a check to the white king.
Yeah, so black wants to move the queen away, and now there are no more checks from white. So, okay, Wesley, so he's kept the queens on at various junctures in this game. Can he continue to do that? He does bring his rook across. Very, very calm move there from Wesley. So his plan is to drop this white rook back down to the 5th rank, attacking the black queen and attacking one of the black pawns on that left side. It does look a bit slow, though. Can Duda profit from this one move, one opportunity he has to actually create some action? Okay, he does offer the trade of queens. It looks like Duda just wants to get out of this game alive. He's a bit worried for the safety of the black king, and rightly so. He does block the white queen's diagonal as well. The queen trade is inevitable, and now the white king steps forward, just defending its queen. We'll see a trade of queens here, I think.
I think so too. It's the safest move on the board, and then the rook will step down to the 2nd row and start targeting that weak pawn there on the left.
Yeah, both sides have weak pawns actually on that left flank. White's weak pawn sits on the 2nd rank. Black's weak pawn sits on the 5th. And both rooks will go for those weak pawns once the queens disappear, and things will balance each other out. I think, yeah, both sides have the same number of weaknesses, and that is the key. Okay. What else is there other than the queen trade? Duda says nothing else. And the queens have departed. Black's rook is going for white's weak pawn on their left side, as 𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬 mentions. That weak pawn has disappeared. White's rook has gone for another undefended pawn. And it's 5 pawns against 5 pawns. Yeah. Everything is going to completely disappear from this left side of the board soon. Those 2 remaining pawns, the white and black pawns, will both get traded. And okay, Wesley so. Is he playing for the win? Is that white king going to come across? I think he's just shuffling for the sake of it.
I do think so too, although there is a little bit of venom in this king attempt, because, you know, maybe if Duda gets swayed by capturing some pawns there on the right, maybe this advanced pawn that Wesley so has on the left might be actually quite dangerous.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, it needs a lot of help.
No, definitely. But, it's an idea. It's an idea. And Duda, I think the safest move for him would be to slide the black rook, I was going to say the other direction, behind white's passed pawn on that left flank. And with this move, I think he's just declaring that the white king will not pass. It will not be able to get over to support its pawn on the left side there. The white king does sidestep. What's Duda's plan now, though? Okay, he brings his rook down the board.
Okay, and now there's actually a threat on the board. Okay, so Duda playing some very clinical chess. And now the pawn pushes forward.
It gives up its own life in order to get rid of white's pawn. And now it's 4 pawns against 4 pawns on the same flank. That's an easy draw, no pass pawns. And the players, they have agreed to that draw.
All right, still tied, these two. If we have a winner in game 4, then that player will be the winner of the match. If